Hello.
Hello, everyone. We just wanted to come on, do a little live about welcoming each other as sacred material. What does it mean? What's sacred material?
In relationship.
In relationship. So, sacred material, I'll share first, is, for me, it's all the stuff that's encapsulated in the DNA. You know, those of you who use gene keys, it's like the shadow, the wounding, the tenderness that we're working through in ourselves, and then how much that can come up in relationship. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I sort of think of like when we come into relationship, we get to fall in love with each other's gifts and our strengths, you know, the parts that are shiny. And so many people get to relate with those parts of us. And yet in sacred relationship, or when we're deepening into intimacy, which I think is where most of us get tripped up, or where it can be like, ugh, is when we start to feel and get to know each other's deeper material. So it's sort of like the shadows. It's the unprocessed parts that haven't been loved, that haven't been met, that even inside of yourself, right? So I have ones inside of me that it's in the relational container where I feel safe and where I'm being met, that more layers of myself, more fragmented parts of myself are coming out to be met in the container. So it's like both parts that we know of and parts that we don't. And really, it's the stuff in us that is out of alignment. It's not us in our highest alignment. It's not us in our highest loving expression. It's more the parts that we're learning from. It's our shadow. It's the trauma. It's the part that needs to be loved and met. And one of the things that can be really tricky for couples is you fall in love with the gift, you fall in love with the beauty, you feel like every couple I work with, that we work with, they're like, when we met, we could just feel our potential. And I'm one of these people, I don't think that that's false. I think that's true. You're actually feeling that. And then, and it's not like, oh, well, that was fake. That's just hormones. Like, yes, it's partly hormones, but I also think it is actually the beauty and strength of the relationship. And the next part is where life is like, and now here are the parts of your partner that aren't integrated. Here are the parts of your partner that are hard to be with. Here are the parts of your partner where they project on you, they take it out on you, they, you know, whatever it is. And that the next step of relationship, really where we move into real love, and I love this word, real love, is where we learn how to be with those parts together. Yeah,
so much of the conditioned way is, you know, the material comes up, and there's, you know, a few different ways this can happen is, you know, maybe the partner overwhelmed by how much feeling is there, how intense the energy can be from that material, and then want to push it away, want to make it wrong, want to judge it, shame it, put it down.
Or like, you got to go work on that. That's your shit, which is true on a level, but it's sort of like totally just leaving the person alone in it and not in the relational sphere.
Yeah, it's not about like caretaking, people pleasing, or fixing it, but it's really this we space. It's this together space of like, when there's extra resource, like if there's a whole bunch of resource and capacity in the container of the relationship, it's like offering from there, from just genuine care of like, really what I continually learn is like, love isn't just like, I love you. It's like, it's the actions, it's the choices, it's the movement towards all parts of your person, your partner. It's like, they come as a full package. That's the wounding, that's their background, their material, their sensitivities, their attachment styles and tendencies, like all of that. The coping strategies, that's all a part of the package. And it's not just accepting it for what it is, but the work is, how can we build tone and capacity to welcome and love those parts that do come up. There is in the relational container, because a lot of couples are really good at this one. is the material comes up and then they go and work on it. They see their therapist, they read the books, they're doing their own personal development. But then in the relational container, it's like quite individualistic. It's like me and you. And I feel like this invitation we're at as just in society is like, how do we then now bridge those two worlds together and welcome the flow of how that goes. And this is like fitting and timely right now, because just to share vulnerably is like, I feel like I've had weeks and weeks of just like being solid, really strong foundation and being a container for, you know, Courtney's sacred material to come up. And it's just shifted, you know, a couple days ago, it started to shift with the full moon, and just like my tenderness started to come forward. And what I really believe and see so many times with the people that I work with when it comes into these relational spaces or working with men is men's tendency can be, oh, I want to be strong. I'm just going to keep being the container. And I'm not going to bring this vulnerability or this tenderness forward in fear of, for my journey in the past, it being put down, not, you know, people in the field not knowing how to hold it. And so there's like a panic or a terror of like, oh God, it's not safe to bring this. And so the work for me being notice where there is safety, what's actually going to bridge more intimacy is expressing some of like what's needed here. And then can we actually wave back and forth from container
Wait, a little pause. How do we build tone to stay in the relational field? So, for example, with some of the layers that are coming up with Mike, over time, my nervous system is having to learn how to stay regulated and present as they come up. And at the beginning, like, I had to take space. I had to take a step back because it was too big and I would get triggered too. But now, as I've worked with it, it's like this capacity more and more to see what's happening for you, to feel what's happening for you, to stay grounded in my own nervous system so that I can actually just be there with you, not fix it, you know, but be there with you. And then what I think is really beautiful is watching how much shifts in you when you notice me there with you. Like how, like, for most of us, like, these places that we were neglected or rejected or not met, they're so big that they really get in the way of how we move towards relationship. And really, ultimately, I think at our core, many of us are actually terrified of being met in those places because in our body, there is the story that we can't be loved there. We're not lovable there. We won't be. And the healing is when together we can decide we're going to love these parts. We're going to create a relational container that can be held in this relational space. Not fix them, not I'm going to fix that, but my intention is I'm going to help create a loving space and work on my own nervous system so that Mike's parts that have been rejected and neglected and alone can come in and start to feel a safety. And that is the healing, but it does require two things. One is like the willingness from both of us to actually move towards that, because it's so vulnerable, it's scary. You know, I've had moments, right, where I'm like a few months, like, was it a month ago, where I was just like bawling, and I was like, I don't even feel like I just want to push you away because I don't want to be loved in this place. And just how big the push away was, and me being able to name that even as I was doing it, and you being able, like, getting to the point where you're understanding that pattern. So you were like, I get this image of you like moving through like a hurricane, like, I'm going to be there for you. But just even that was so healing for that part of me. Because it's like, oh, somebody cares enough about me that they want to be here for me in those places. And for me, I feel like that is actually where two things, we're actually maturing together, we're growing up together, and two, that's actually the relational alchemy. Like when we talk about sacred alchemy or sacred relationship, that is the place of alchemy. We're building an alchemy pool of love and support for all the parts that need to be purified to arise.
Which is such an empowering process for self in the relationship, like to be able to offer that and then to build the tone to receive that, like back and forth. Because I wanted to speak to that too. In the beginning, it did feel like that was the imagery, and I remember even like using words to that, where one of your really big layers of material would come up, and it felt like I was just like sword in the ground hanging on, and it was like the storm of emotion,
because my anger was like, you will not meet me, no one ever meets me, you will not,
like you will not see this part, you are not safe, and just all this energy, you know, present and at times projected, that I am the one that in the past created this environment that is so unsafe and scary. And so in the beginning, it really felt like that. And this is the beauty of practicing this place with each other in the relational container is now, God, when a month ago, when that big layer came in, it was just like, you know, it was more like swinging my sword of like, this is so easy to love you here. This is so welcome. Like, which
was super confusing for my pattern, because I was like, no, you're supposed to be struggling to hold this, and because I'm actually so unlovable in this place. And then he was just kind of like, I'm here. And it was like so simple, but like so big. Oh, suddenly that wound in me doesn't seem so big and scary. And and so I feel like this is where we get to work together to build this space. But the misconception can be in our society that being in a healthy relationship is, don't bring the difficult things, and we only be in the light, or we only be in the love, which of course only leads to the shadows spilling unconsciously and causing hurt or extreme disconnect. Like people living, I think the Hendricks call it, where you're in a parallel relationship, not a connected relationship. So parallel relationship is we're living in the same like house, our lives are connected, but we're not really in it together. We're sort of on our own path with a lot of space. And a connected relationship is each of us is on our own journey, but we're really cultivating and building something together. And there's that feeling of that. And I'm just so in awe of how what we can hold the more we build that tone in our bodies and in our souls, like that the container's getting bigger and bigger.
And the bigger the container grows, it's like the individual dreams, or they may be co-created dreams, is like the individual dreams or dharma, it becomes easier having that relational capacity in the container. Like the wider our container gets of supporting each other in the places that are unlovable, unforgivable, shameful, if those can be loved here, I notice for me anyways, I can move with so much more confidence and fire and clarity of like, this is how I'm meant to serve. This is the value I add to the world because it's being loved relationally. Like this is the beauty of our relationship is the amount of places I'm like, no one's ever been here. No one will see this part of me. It's so guarded and protected. But then when met in love, it's like, what? Reality, shattering that old reality of like, wow, okay, if it can be loved here, I can then love that. Because this is, just a little bit of the developmental process is like, it does need to be loved from the outside, from the parents and the guardians, for it to land here in this body of like, I am lovable, I am enough, I am worthy, I am beautiful. We need outside mirrors and reflections to show who we are, the essence of who we are. And if what's modeled back is the shadow or the sacred material, that's then what we identify with. And so this is the beauty of like, okay, how can we build this tone and capacity to be loved in those frightening places? Like my most recent ones, I'm feeling lots of tone and inspiration and excitement today, and 2 days of really raw, tender parts. My nervous system was like, Courtney will not see this. Like, she cannot get close. She's unsafe, like, which is called disorganized attachment. I'm like craving that love from her, and it's like perceiving her as a threat. And then on my side, my work is like, can I notice that she is kind and she is present? And then, and receiving on her side, like seeing that she is moving towards, and whoa, like in a palpable sense of like, oh, you're working with it. You're like working with it. I can feel you moving towards. My nervous system notices that, which then starts to soften it a bit.
Yeah. And really, the gift is, right, it's not me just being in service to Mike, because really, whatever my nervous system is having a hard time being present with or holding space for, we all know this in ourselves, where we're like, well, this isn't my shit, and so like I've had this lots inside of myself. Well, this isn't my shit, so I don't want to deal with it, and I just want to move away, and I'm past that. Like I'm I'm past that, and really, it's like learning how to realize that is my sacred material too. Like what's coming up for him, what it triggers in me is my sacred material. And so that's the gift, right? I'm building tone to be present, and then that means I can also be present with other people in my life, more present with those patterns in myself. And really, a lot of these deeper layers, we can only actually heal in this way when there is a consistency of relationship. So I really think we can heal these things in friendship and these things too, but that within that, there needs to be consistency and commitment. Like there's certain qualities that allow those deeper layers to kind of like whoosh. And really, we're talking a lot here about being with the uncomfortable, but my experience is the better we get at that, the more that potential energy and the gifts that were so palpable at the beginning of our relationship, those are here more and more and more. And so as opposed to, the journey of, okay, well, we started off and there was all these beautiful gifts and our potential. And then now, as time goes on, we're like, oh, now we're just with all the shadows. That isn't what's happening. What's happening is that those gifts and that potential is growing and growing and growing as we are equally being with the shadows and the difficult, sacred crunchy, I think Blue calls it, right? The sacred crunchy that's emerging. And so I guess this is what the motivation would be of why we would want to do this work or learn how to move together, is because it actually allows for more creation of life, more creation of dharma, more health and wholeness, and really that the potential that you felt with your partner at the beginning is real, and it can be real and it can be embodied, but you have to go on the journey of it. You can't just expect that that's how it's gonna be. You gotta go on the journey. Life is like, here's the fruit, this is this beautiful fruit, and then it's like, and here's all these guardians, here's all these challenges, and then it's like, okay, can we go through that?
Yeah, for you tuning in right now that are live and would love to see some hearts, like, does this resonate? Do you know this experience? Is this something that's touching you? Because really this material that's at the beginning that we're attracted to, like Courtney is saying, it's like those gifts, it's like part of the attraction that's in there is like, wow, the gifts that are there are what can hold the tenderness and the vulnerability within me to help me heal and grow. Like it's actually a reciprocal potential relationship. It's like, oh, whoa, this match that's here, wow, if we're in partnership, there's a lot of potential love and safety for these things to just like come forward. And then there is the point where they do. And then it's like, how are we in that? Like, do we lean into each other's gifts? Do we allow and welcome the tenderness that's there? And that's what I've really appreciated in our relationship, is noticing the more curious, this is for my experience, the more curious I am on what your gifts are, the more I can welcome them and then lean into them with the parts that, you know, for me are maybe more tender or vulnerable, like, oh, can lean into that. Oh, that feels so good. And then it actually brings in more of that intimacy, more of that together we space. It's feeding it of like, oh my God, I appreciate you so much. Oh no, I appreciate you so much. And it becomes this whole other dance that's rewriting the story of like, instead of, you know, this is how it's coming up for me, is instead of like, holy shit, I'm like terrified for when the next layer or the bubble of sacred material comes up because like it's so uncomfortable. Instead, it's like, what an honor to build the capacity and the tone and like touch into my strengths to be able to hold that level of energy, all those places that were missed, and then to bring in all my inner resource, my village, to love that. It's so fulfilling for me when it's coming from that place. Like the old way of caretaking of like, oh, you know, wanting to fix it, or it's too uncomfortable, so wanting it to change, is so different than, oh, I really want to build these resources within myself to be able to love all of my partner. And really that's just this reflection of like how much is building here. Self-love, self-compassion, gentleness, care.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So thanks for being on the journey of learning about that with us together.
Yeah, how to be with each other's gifts and the beauty of the relationship, and then also how to stand together. Just to leave you with this, Dan Tacken talks about this, is that, you know, being in a relationship with another human is one of the hardest things to do because there can be so much discomfort in it, and comfort. And yet when we have secure attachment, or when we have earned secure attachment, we understand that and we choose to be in that together. Yeah.
Which is a really beautiful place to be.
And a big gift.
Such a gift. So thanks for tuning in. And if anything pops up, like, please share in the comments below. If it resonates, just give it a heart. If it touches you. And we love to hear from you guys, and what you've learned too.
Bye.
See you. So much love.